Hi there. In the last video, we sliced and diced the album version of the song that we're going to be using a backing track for. We did that so that we could set up the roadmap and get all our bar numbers straight overall. We got a little vamp going on at the end, which is wonderful. We could set that to end however we want, but usually vamps are helpful to have, and that's one of the cool things you can do here that is a little more difficult to do elsewhere. So I've got my count off and I've got my roadmap. Now we need to bring in our other track. So I'm actually going to wipe out the all the audio that I've got here except for our click from our track, and we're going to replace that with the instrumental. But before we do that, one of the things that I find very helpful in Ableton, besides little roadmappy things, is marking tempos, because I have the ability to come back and I can chain songs together by just literally dragging and dropping other Ableton files right at the bottom of the session. So if we're going to go song to song, I can do that. But the one thing that it doesn't bring in is the tempo. So I tend to, here in our count off, I will change this scene name so that it says 119 BPM. And that's actually a special, you can see actually that turned red right there. That's a special Ableton thing. If I set my tempo to like 187 and then I press this, look, it set it to 119. So that's very helpful as I string songs together. Then I know when I click that cell, it's going to start right at the correct tempo for that. And if you're doing a song to song thing where you're not even using count offs in between songs, then you could even put that here in the intro as well, like 119 BPM. Oops. And it'll do the same thing. So that's very helpful for that. Some of the folks that I work with also like to put the name of the song here. That's helpful if you're going to build a song like a set list and you know exactly what you're playing. I read the dance floor, read the crowd to see what's going on. So I usually don't do that. So I've got track, and I'm going to wipe out everything here. We just took all that time. Goodbye. So I selected, shift click, selected everything in there. I didn't wipe out the track. I want to keep that there because I like it routed and all that stuff. But now we're going to bring in the instrumental. So that is also in our Ableton Tracks file, Just Dance. And I have the instrumental. By the way, look, Ableton made a little ASD file. It didn't really save anything important to it because we didn't lock in all the tempo map stuff and press save. But just know that it actually does do that, as you warp stuff. And if you do press save down in the clip edit sort of view, this will write all your tempo information, your markers and stuff, which is pretty cool. I hardly ever use it. Just Dance instrumental, same thing. I'm going to drag that right to our intro. It's going to do the same sort of thing, and we're going to do the same sort of thing that we did before. You might ask, well, isn't there a way to just automatically replace it? And yes, there actually is. The problem is with MP3s especially, the instrumental and the album cut might not start at exactly the same time. You can see actually the tempo here on this is even a little weird. There's some stuff that's not exactly correct. So I can kind of move these back onto the beat. It looks like there might be some stuff here. I think what happened is the instrumental got chopped on YouTube. So you might have to do some cleanup and whatnot. So I'm going to go to the end of the song. Oh, here, let's just go from here and we'll go right click, warp 119 from here. And let's see if at the end of the song it's still on the grid. And it looks like it's pretty much there. Like I might move that kick drum over to there and just call it a day. Like it's probably good. Downbeat there, that looks fine. You can get super hypercritical about that stuff. A lot of the drummers I work with like to have the track in their ears as well anyway. So, the click track plus the track will help them lock into the groove. That helps. Stuff that we forgot, don't forget, complex. Follow action, 8. And next. And let's set our loop again. Remember, orange numbers are bad. We want bar 1, length 8. So we have our intro. Now I can actually just kind of follow the roadmap. So rather than duplicate, I'm going to go copy. So that's Command C. Go down arrow, paste. Go up arrow, copy, paste. We know this is another 8 bars. Oops. This one's going to be tricky. It's a 9 bar, so I'm going to go here and then go length 9. Now remember, our click track is already set as well as kind of our roadmap. So that's 9 bars, copy, paste. We got to move it over. Always move it over first before you set your bar numbers. 8. Copy, paste. Move it over 8. That's loop is amazing for that. We go over 8 bars at a time. Boom, copy, paste. 8 bars, copy, paste. And you can actually start looking. So there was the chorus. There's the verse. Pre-chorus looks like it's got a little bit more going on slightly. Here's our breakdown chorus, which looks like a breakdown chorus. Yep, looks good to me. Let's make that 4 bars. Copy, paste. Enter. Make this 8 bars. Copy, paste. Move it over. Make this 4 bars. And you'll eventually get really fast at this. Paste. Move it over. Make that 8 bars. Doesn't matter if you do follow action or length first. This one's already 8, so I can move that over 8. And again, you want to be aware, like when you're seeing stuff like this. This is kind of a something that I would notice. Well, we have this looks like one section, and then this looks like the start of another section. Especially when you look at it like that. So I already know it's 4 bars here, but if you're doing this and you're following your roadmap, and then it doesn't, you see stuff like that, definitely take a listen to it and double check to make sure that it's somewhat correct. Same thing here, and we'll leave this as an open vamp. Or we could set that to stop after if we wanted to. That's not a bad idea. And it's also worth checking out the differences sometimes between the instrumental and the album version. Like this looks suspicious here. This looks like that fades out. Oh yeah, that's not going to work for us. Luckily, I do know that this is basically a 4-bar phrase that repeats. Because listen to what would happen. Listen to these 8 bars. And if we wanted a vamp, that sounds weird. So I can go here and I can just say, well, let's make it a 4-bar loop. And now it'll just loop those 4 bars. We have the crash symbol. If we want to be clever, we could do this. We could move the loop a bar over, make sure that the start stays the same so we don't get that crash again on 110. Well, well, there's still a crash, but it's not as big. So, I mean, that's a possibility too. If you're hearing it sounds like the drums are kind of falling a little bit away from the click, yep, we could tighten that up. I'm using a pitch shifted version of the track so that YouTube doesn't kill my account. So the original version is not going to have that problem, I don't think. And so we have everything set. We're basically back to where we were. See, I hit chorus, you know, and there's no vocals, which is fine. That's great. Let's do this. We need something here. We can't leave this blank, otherwise it won't trigger. Like, here's the count off.
1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play.
The song didn't start. So we actually need 2 bars of silence before that. So we're going to kind of just do the opposite of what we did before here, which is paste. And we're going to set, we can just click this and press down instead of up. And then we can go 2 bars, follow action of 2. If we really wanted this to be the exact 2 bars before the song start, we could move that there. Silence is fine. And even though this doesn't exist in the file, Ableton doesn't care. It'll just roll with it. So here's 2 bars. Make sure I set that to 2.
1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play.
Great. Extra added bonus again, we can change our tempos if we want. If we select all of these, we could bump the song up a half step, down a half step, just that fast. So we can change the tempo and the key right on the fly. And I do that a lot of times as singers go, you know, right before we do a song, hey, can we do Just Dance, but can we do it in B? I like flag down the band and go, we're going to do it in B. And as I'm doing that, I'm trying to knock it down here. You know, it's in C sharp minor, so I could dump it down, you know, 2 semitones. That does it. And that gives us our whole song. And it's Abletonized. It's chopped up. We can jump around. The nice thing, again, in Ableton is that it, just like the old drum machines, will jump on the bar line. So if I start this here, and then I know we're going to go on to the verse. Here we go. Chorus. So as long as I click within the bar, you know, before, when the downbeat comes of the next bar, it'll be on that scene. And I do that here versus over here because this will trigger, as you can see, both the click and the track at the same time. And as you get more tricky and you do multi-track stuff where maybe we have bass on one, drums on the other, or whatever, this will trigger them all at the same time, which is in effect what you want. Okay, the one thing we have not done yet is save. So I'm going to go File, Save, Live Set As. And we're going to put this in, we have our music folder, Ableton Files, and I'm going to call this Just Dance. And I like to put the tempo there, 119 BPM as well. And I also like to have, you know, the project for this together. So give me a second. Here's one thing. You'll only have to do this once. If I go over to my Ableton files here, Ableton tracks. Ableton files. It says Just Dance Project. I'm going to call this Ableton Files. Call this Ableton Files Old. And this Ableton Files is now going to replace that. This is a special folder that Ableton makes, Ableton Live makes. And I'll reload this here real quick. And I like this because I can now take Ableton Files and I can put that, if I go Add Folder here, Ableton Files. Now all my songs as I add them into that folder. You know, if because we have a nice template now, I could just duplicate Just Dance, wipe out the audio, and just do it again. Do it again, do it again, do it again. So I really do like, you know, the way that's laid out, and I can have all my songs, and I can search through all my different backing tracks and all my different songs. You know, and I can even search BPM then. You know, I can put in 119 BPM and I can find all the other songs that are 119. So that's helpful. And that's pretty much good to go. Just know that you'll start building up a whole bunch of songs this way. If there's something like you decide later on you have to change the click on something, it's a little more difficult. So, you know, those sorts of things, just be aware. But that'll get you off and running. And I think that's it. You want to come out of output 3 on your audio interface, and usually your drummer will have a headphone mixer or a little Behringer headphone box or Rolls headphone box. Just run a long guitar cable out of your audio interface into his headphone amp. You're good to go. You know, the other 2 channels go out to your front of house. You know, they'll probably have a DI for you, or you could plug them into your PA if it's a small club gig. And then your laptop basically just becomes backing track playback. I run main stage with it at the same time. Occasionally there's some hiccups, but it runs pretty solid. But, you know, if you've got a synth you love, do that. And then just leave your laptop for all this sort of stuff. And, you know, I will save different versions of these songs for bands that do things differently. You know, like if they cut the intro, or they vamp something in the middle or whatever, I'll save a special version of that song just for that band, even if it's just a different tempo. It's nice to have that so you always know what their tempo is, what their form is, all that sort of stuff. And the nice thing is it's a great cheat, is that you can watch these as they're going by and you know exactly the form of the song, which is a lot of times as good as a chart. You don't really need much. Sometimes you might put the key or something in there to help you out. So this will get you started and probably get you through most of your gigs. We'll get into later some interesting things like doing you know, additional multi-track backing tracks and how to do song to song. But in a pinch, just stop the track a little early, double click on the next song, and just make sure you're ready to press the count off button when the time comes. You can also highlight and then press your enter key. That'll do the same thing. It'll launch the scene and then you'll be good to go. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, like and subscribe. Thanks again.